The film opens on an idyllic note. It's Ben and Lora's anniversary, and to celebrate, they embark on a multi-day sailing trip into the open ocean. But the romance abruptly halts when Lora spots a mysterious island looming on the horizon. Mesmerized, she begs Ben to stop. Though hesitant to deviate from their course, Ben gives in to keep her happy. They drop anchor, lower a small rubber dinghy into the water, and row toward the unknown shore. Upon landing, they discover a makeshift hut, suggesting they aren't the first to set foot here. However, an extensive search yields nothing but thick, suffocating mud. Sensing danger, Ben urges Lora to head back to the yacht, but curiosity drives her deeper into the island. Hidden in the brush, they stumble upon rusting, abandoned machinery, relics of a long-forgotten scientific expedition. With the island seemingly deserted, they decide to rest, snapping photos and sharing a few fleeting moments of peace. Then, the sky turns the color of a bruise. A monstrous storm is brewing. Realizing their vulnerability, Ben yells that they need to get back to the yacht immediately. They scramble into the rubber dinghy and battle the rising swells, but it's too late. A massive wave flips the boat, plunging them both into the freezing, chaotic ocean. Knowing hypothermia will kill them in minutes, they make a desperate swim back to the hostile shores of the island. With no shelter from the howling winds, they manage to spark a fragile fire, shivering through a night of pure terror. Morning brings no relief, only a devastating realization: the yacht is gone. Lora immediately blames Ben for a faulty anchor, but the truth is far worse: the sheer violence of the storm swept their lifeline out to sea. Desperate for a glimpse of the hull, they hike up the jagged hills to the island's highest peak. They scan the horizon, but see nothing but an empty, endless expanse of gray water. To make matters worse, the dinghy's engine is out of gas. Any escape now requires rowing against treacherous ocean currents. Lora realizes they can't row that far in bad weather, noting that if another storm hits, they will die out there. She convinces Ben that it is better to stay on the island for now. With hunger and thirst clawing at them, survival becomes a brutal daily game. They split up to scavenge and strike gold, a freshwater spring. It's enough to keep them hydrated, but food remains scarce, forcing them to choke down bitter leaves. Cut off from the world with no radio or phone, they trample a massive SOS into the dirt, knowing their lives now hinge on pure luck. Using rusted scrap metal from the old machines, they build a crude shelter and use an old tin can to ration their water. Days bleed into weeks. Just as despair threatens to consume them, they uncover 3 unmarked graves. The chilling realization hits: people used to live here, and this island claimed them. When Lora faints from starvation, Ben carries her frail body back to the hut. Waking up the next morning, a shift occurs within her. She tells Ben they can't just live on hope anymore, they have to be brave to survive. Sharpening sticks into makeshift spears, they row the dinghy to a secluded cove teeming with penguins. Lora breaks down in tears. She has never killed a living thing. But survival doesn't care about sentiment. They hunt, eating their first substantial meal in weeks, reclaiming their strength and their will to fight. Months pass in a grueling routine of waiting on the beach, watching the horizon, and returning to their shack in defeat. Then, another devastating blow hits. The penguin colony migrates away, leaving the island completely barren. Heartbroken and desperate, Lora begs Ben to risk the open ocean in the dinghy. Ben refuses, arguing that she is being emotional and that launching into the open sea without a map, fuel, or a guaranteed water source is suicide. Their argument is cut short when a distant light cuts through the darkness. A ship is passing by. They scream into the void, but the vessel is too far away to hear them. Refusing to let their only chance slip away, Ben pours their last remaining drops of fuel into the dinghy, fires up the engine, and tears into the dark water. Lora screams for him to stop, warning that he will run out of gas before he reaches it, but her cries fall on deaf ears. She watches his silhouette vanish into the blackness. Soon after, just as Lora feared, the engine splutters and dies. Ben is stranded in the dark, and as the days crawl by, he never returns. Left entirely alone, Lora refuses to let the island break her. She resolves to stay strong, until one morning, a weak knock echoes at the cabin door. She flings it open to find Ben, bloodied, battered, and barely conscious. After pulling him inside, he painfully explains that the waves smashed his stalled boat into the jagged coastal rocks. With a shattered leg and a mangled body, he spent 4 grueling days crawling and dragging himself back to her. With Ben bleeding out and agonizingly close to death, Lora has to act. Using makeshift tools, she excruciatingly stitches his deep wounds, causing him to black out from the pain. With Ben incapacitated, the full burden of survival falls squarely on Lora's shoulders. She hunts, scavenges, and nurses him day and night until, a month later, he finally regains his strength. But their victory is short-lived. winter is arriving, and the island is beginning to freeze. Knowing they won't survive the winter, Lora packs what little they have, but Ben insists he is still too weak to travel. Recognizing that debating him is a losing battle, Lora makes a bold choice: she will trek across the frozen wasteland alone to find help. For 3 agonizing days, she battles sub-zero temperatures and biting winds, finding absolutely nothing. Exhausted and freezing, she collapses into the snow, ready to give up. But the thought of Ben dying alone sparks a final flame of adrenaline. She forces herself up and pushes forward until she spots a bright red structure cutting through the white haze. It's an abandoned research station. Bursting inside, she finds a jackpot: food, heaters, warm beds, and a snow sled. After consulting a map on the wall, she loads up the sled and races back to get Ben. But when she arrives under the cover of night, horror strikes. A brutal winter storm has completely leveled their shelter. Desperate, she digs through the frozen debris and uncovers Ben's stiff, unconscious body. Refusing to lose him now, she hauls him onto the sled and speeds back to the station. She strips away his frozen clothes, cranks up the heaters, and wraps him in heavy blankets. Hours later, Ben opens his eyes to the smell of a warm dinner and the sight of Lora smiling down at him. The warmth, the food, and the safety feel like a beautiful dream, but Lora holds him close, promising him it's real. For the first time in months, they dance, eat, and sleep without fear. A few days later, their long nightmare officially ends. A massive research vessel arrives at the station, and the scientists step ashore to rescue them. As they board the ship, leaving the hostile island behind, the movie ends on a powerful note of survival, a testament to the fact that as long as you refuse to give up, you can overcome even the darkest of times.